Okay, welcome to our friends in council chambers. Welcome to our friends on Zoom. We'll give it one more minute to make sure everyone can click in okay, and we'll get our program started. Okay, it is 4:02, so we'll go ahead and get the show on the road. Welcome to friends in the chambers as well as on Zoom. As a reminder, when you signed up to attend this information session, you might have seen that this will also be a recording. So count this as a disclaimer on the front end that this will be recorded and hosted on our website, and that's so folks who can't attend live can still have ready access to the information and be able to answer questions quickly. So with that, I'd like to welcome you to the Community Projects Grant Information Session. I am Megan Huber, Director of Economic Development and Community Engagement for the City of Citrus Heights. I also want to acknowledge and say thank you to my colleagues who are here to help and support. Courtney Riddle, say hello Courtney, who will be a primary contact for this grant program. And special thank you to Amy Van, who's handling all of the technical things. She is indispensable for this setup. Thanks, Amy, for being here. So our agenda for today, our goal is to spend an hour. I lost my clicker. One sec. Oh, that's right. Okay, good. Thank you. The agenda for today, we'll review this program, how it came to be, and its goals, and then we'll connect those dots into potential projects and programs that are eligible for this program. We'll review some inspiration ideas, and then go into what the application and review process looks like, and finally deadlines and opening it up for any questions. So the Community Projects Grant Program was essentially created as a method to get American Rescue Plan Act dollars directly out into the Citrus Heights community to help Citrus Heights community groups and organizations increase community engagement and community connection as we're coming out of COVID-19 and recovering from the pandemic. The program was designed to cast as wide a net as possible to be able to achieve those goals. So when you take a look at eligibility requirements, you'll see that the goals are really to inspire creative and innovative thinking, to reconnect residents using events and programs. Our goal is to really engage our grassroots community groups who are looking to do positive things for our Citrus Heights community. That includes fulfilling needs that community groups have to be able to continue to provide services. And finally, to strengthen existing and create new partnerships to improve Citrus Heights' quality of life. And to do that, to effectively achieve those goals, we wrote the eligibility requirements for potential projects and programs as widely as possible. And we figured the best way to do that was not to say what we were looking for, but rather to say the stuff that we couldn't accept. And that way the definition stays wide and open of how this program could potentially be used. So in terms of eligibility, any 501c3 community group or organization is eligible to seek funding to complete an activity or project that meets those program goals. And if you're an individual that has an idea but aren't necessarily connected to a community group right now, we still want to hear from you so we can help you connect those dots. Citrus Heights has a really competitive advantage when it comes to helping individuals do cool things, in that we have a network of neighborhood associations that we can connect our individual residents to, that can provide ready support for projects and programs. So in terms of eligibility, I mentioned that we wanted to cast a wide a net as possible. So instead of defining what you can do with these dollars, what we did was share what you can't do. And it's pretty standard stuff when it comes to government funding. The program will not consider grant proposals for retroactive funding for projects that have already been completed. So this is for new projects, programs, and events. It cannot cover salaries for permanent employees, cannot be replacement funding for pre-existing programming, cannot be individual benefit activity. It has to be used towards community good. It can't be a project identified with a political party, cannot be benefit organizations that practice discrimination of any kind, and it can't be general contributions to larger capital projects. So you'll see when we go into these requirements that an effective application will essentially define a program that has a start and a finish, so an inception and a deliverable, and we can talk more about what that looks like. So starting off with inspiration, this was a photo collage that staff put together that represents potential programs and events that could be eligible under this program. You see it's a wide spectrum ranging from a music event to a cleanup to a bike event to a street fair to murals, and really eligibility is anything in between, as long as it increases community engagement and connection and supports community groups. I have a couple more inspiration slides to show you in terms of germinating ideas, potential applications that community groups could submit. This slide is a little hard to read, so I'm going to give you a quick summary. This can be used for community connection projects like cultural festivals and parades, fun runs, movie nights, youth connection events, community yard sales, neighborhood cookouts, neighborhood association-oriented events. This can also include projects like neighborhood cleanups, tree plantings, community gardens, public art, neighborhood improvements, placemaking signage, or events like an art day in the park, health fair, craft fair, bike around town, back to school celebration, enhancing national night out celebrations. One other inspiration I wanted to make sure to share, that previous slide that I just reviewed with you was one that was put together by staff as we've done some research on ways programs like these have been utilized. This slide represents information that we've captured from our community on what our community would like to see from a program like this. So in terms of community input ideas, this list is also wide-ranging. It includes things like ice cream socials, concerts in the park, beautification, trail amenities, cleanup events, holiday events, movie nights, creek cleanups, food festivals, shade trees, community art projects, themed signage. There were two quotes that were pulled from this survey where we got this community input information that I want to share that also serve as inspiration. We had one resident say, encourage citizens to get creative when it comes to identifying and addressing local issues. And we had another resident say, the more we can involve the community, the better our city becomes. So that's really what we'd like to achieve as part of this program, in addition to supporting our community groups and organizations. So once we have an idea, the next step will be for your community group or organization to submit an application. And the application materials are on our website, and I'll show you exactly where to find those at the end of this presentation, and we'll walk through those materials together. The application includes 5 different categories to be able to effectively detail a project or program scope, write out an action plan, those completion steps from start to finish, describe any project or event maintenance that may be needed. We want to make sure we're investing in things where if they require upkeep, there's a plan to be able to upkeep it. Detail a budget and any other funds that will be used to complete the potential project or program. And finally, there is a section for community support. So there's a requirement to provide 2 letters of support that affirm the program or event. And again, that definition for where those could come from are very far and wide. It can be from other members of the community group. It can be from residents or businesses that will be positively affected or benefit from that project or event or similar. So like I said, those application materials can be found on our website, and I'll show you where we can find those. I also wanted to provide information on how the application will be reviewed. So in terms of review criteria, these bullet points will be what staff are looking for as we package the applications for consideration to forward to City Council for final approval. We'll be looking for things like, can the proposed project be completed within the requested grant amount and any other applicable contributions? We'll be looking for if the proposed use of funds has a reasonable likelihood that it will benefit the Citrus Heights community. We'll be looking for if the project serves a public purpose and creates community connection. There is also a requirement that the project be completed in a calendar year, starting at the date of approval. And then, of course, all projects must take place within the city of Citrus Heights to benefit the Citrus Heights community. And they must be free to participants and open to the public. And that's what really ensures community good. So this is the review process. Staff will review all applications for completeness and eligibility. Because potential program and event applications can vary widely, each submission will be assessed individually for permit and insurance requirements. So that qualification process will happen on the back end, one-on-one. So we'll be working with applicants to advise if any permits or other entitlements are needed for those proposed programs. And of course, there's staff support available via Courtney to help make all of those requirements happen. So the submissions will be reviewed by the city within 45 days of the application period closing. We'll review deadlines at the end, but as a reminder, the final day to submit an application is on April 14th. That's a Friday at 4 p.m. And then, so staff will review and vet all of those applications using that criteria, make sure the applications are complete, and then it will be presented to the City Council Finance Committee for review and recommendation. The Finance Committee recommendations will then be presented to City Council for final approval. So that final consideration will happen at a public meeting, and if your application is being considered, there will be an opportunity to provide public comment. And then the approved applicant, once it's approved, will implement the project or event within the agreed upon timeline. And then there will be requirements with that approval that'll be detailed in an approval letter of how reimbursement happens. So because these applications, projects, and programs could have a very wide definition, There will be individualized approval letters that'll detail the reimbursement process and any of those mile markers so that it can be responsive to the individual application. So in terms of deadlines, the application period is open. It opened on March 1st, and the last date to submit an application is April 14th at 4 p.m. That staff review that we talked about will happen between April 17th and May 1st, working towards a target date for the City Council meeting on May 11th for final consideration. And then projects can begin upon City Council approval of grant award. There are 3 ways to submit an application. You can submit it via email, via snail mail, or dropping it off directly at the Citrus Heights City Hall front desk reception. So the thing that we want to impart the most during this information session is that your community group or organization has ongoing support of Citrus Heights community engagement staff as you are crafting an application, as you're getting your project idea together and working towards submission of that application. So we want to make sure you know that you are not on your own. You are welcome to reach out and get support from Courtney and myself as you're moving through this process, because we have a goal to get a ton of applications in so that we can do a ton of community good together. So with that, that brings us to the end of our presentation. So I'm going to scooch on over to the counter so I can show you exactly where to find those materials that I talked about. And then while I'm looking at the computer screen, I want to remind our Zoom friends that the Q&A box is available. If you have questions, pop them in there, and we are happy to answer them. Okay. I want to let you guys behind the curtain a little bit and let you know that I had a ton of anxiety switching up that screen, and I did it successfully. Thank you. Thank you. Okay, so taking a look at where to find these materials, I am at the City of Citrus Heights homepage, which is citrusheights.net. We're going to go to Government and Economic Development and Community Engagement. And then we're on the left-hand side, we're going to go into the community engagement menu. And then there is a community projects grant page. And another way we can get there, if you'd like to jot it down, is the web page up top, citrusheights.net/1233/community-projects-grant. So this is the community projects grant page, and the most important part here are the materials on the right-hand side. So here you'll see the program flyer as well as the program guidelines. These are the documents that essentially have the information that we reviewed in the PowerPoint presentation of the application process, the review and award process. And then the most important part is the application. And I'm going to have to share that again, but I'm going to take a minute to do that so that you guys can see what the document looks like. I want to underscore that city staff worked to make this as simple and minimalistic as possible, because we don't like paperwork as much as you don't like paperwork. So our goal was to get the information that's needed to be able to effectively consider your project or event with the least amount of bureaucracy. So it's a 2-page application, and you'll fill out your community organization contact information, and then these are the questions that need to be answered. So you're welcome to do this in a Word document using this format. We'll review the project and event goal. So we'll want to write out how your proposed project will increase community engagement or connection. And that can be really simple. So let's take a park cleanup as an example. That increases community engagement by activating community to take care of community together. And it also allows community to connect to each other during the event. Relationships can be made when folks come out for a common cause. So it can be that simple. We'll also want to detail out the expected community involvement, so indicate how many the program will benefit. Again, because these are really individualized programs or projects, these metrics will be different. So don't be worried that even if we're not, in high number territory, quality certainly counts too. To give you an example of that, an idea that Courtney and I have heard without oversharing would be a school enrichment program, like summer kid programming. Certainly, we can't serve 500 kids at a time because there are teacher ratios to account for, but that's a program where quality means just as much as quantity. So when you approach this metrics category, know that it will be considered individual to your application. We'll also want to talk about the project or event maintenance. So if this is maybe a project without a start and an end date, maybe it has to do with, maybe it's a project where a community group requires some new storage infrastructure to be able to start up a new program that will serve community. This is a section where we would detail out how that storage infrastructure would be maintained and upkept to ensure quality investment. In the budget category, we'll want to note the entire cost of a program. So if this is a new event that has other investment to be able to pull off an even bigger scope, this is where you would show other funding sources. And then finally, we talked about community support. So showing organizations, neighborhood associations, residents who are involved and or support the project. And that's primarily done through providing 2 letters of support from community members. And then this is details on, it's just like standard government language. We had to include some of it because that's our job. But you'll acknowledge and sign there and submit this file along with the supplemental Word document. So that's the process. Courtney, is there anything to add? Did we cover all of our bases? Okay, cool. So I'm going to go ahead and stop our screen share. Whoa, that was pretty trippy. There we are. Okay, so I'm going to stop our screen share. I'm going to turn the Zoom Q&A over to Courtney. Courtney, let's, when I step away so that we don't get any feedback, why don't you turn on a mic, because I'd love to have you participate in this too. So now is the point in our program where we'll open it up to questions.
I can can start with what's on Zoom. So one of the attendees on Zoom wrote the question, what is your definition of permanent staff? When stating that permanent staff salaries cannot be funded, are part-time hourly staff not considered permanent?
No, that's certainly not considered permanent, but I wouldn't be able to provide a definitive answer just based on that general question. What I would say is please reach out to Courtney to talk more about how that relates to your potential program or event that you're interested in applying for.
Okay, great. Our next question comes from Pierre Perales, and he writes, hello, this is Pierre, and my wife and I, Anna Maria, own a dance studio in Citrus Heights and would like to have our kids and our family dance night, fitness night at our studio. Is that possible?
I would say that sounds great, and please reach out to Courtney to talk more about how to write that into an effective application.
Okay. Next question online comes from Greg P. The deadline for applications seems very short based on the application requirements. I wanted to propose a public art project. I am an individual thinking this would be a project for wide open walls. I have the location and the theme in mind. Also, location is highly visible to public property.
That sounds fantastic. This application period has been open for about 6 weeks, and we have to keep it moving just based on the dates that we've already publicized. So I'd encourage you to submit an application however you can. I also want to share that Citrus Heights does have a couple of other grant programs that could potentially qualify based on what you've described. Citrus Heights offers a history and arts grant that's open on a first-come, first-serve basis. So all that to say, again, my answer would be to please reach out to Courtney, and we can talk more about how to steer you to the right program. Right. And let's do our best to get your application in, because we'd love to get you considered.
Okay, that was the last of the online questions.
Okay, I saw hands in the room. Hi, Jana.
I know that it's $50,000. As the applicants apply, do they set their limits? Do they set the limits for their amount they want? And when you go through the applications, if one guy wants a big chunk and it eliminates the little chunks, does that make a difference in your decision? In other words, you can fund 6 projects or one big one, or how are you going to do that?
That's a great question. It's a 2-part answer. The first is in terms of request amount. The entire pot available is $50,000. There is not a cap for what an individual application can request. And that is intentional. It's so that staff can create an inventory of community needs. So it's not just about this program, it's about knowing what's out there as a whole. So we can cross-refer to other potential grant programs and maybe even recommend a second grant program. So all that to say, I'd recommend first that folks ask for the legitimate amount that they need. And then the second part of that answer is for the review process. Staff will not make amount recommendations. What will happen is the applications will be reviewed for eligibility, and then we'll present that to City Council Finance Committee for consideration and final recommendation amounts. Yeah, but I do really want to underscore here, the reason we designed this program this way is so that staff can gain a better understanding of what our community organizations and community groups need, what they want to do, what they're dreaming about, and that's so we can create a library of resources and hopefully work towards ongoing support strategies. So if you've got something, we want to hear about it, is the point. Great questions, thank you.
Okay, we have 2 more Zoom questions that have come in.
Okay, hold on, I saw another hand in the room here first. Was that?
I put my hand up, but the question was already answered.
Okay. I want to. Okay, let's take the Zoomies.
So next question comes from an anonymous attendee. So private businesses can apply even if it promotes their business?
No, the eligibility is for nonprofits and community groups. So but I do want to say, if a business has an idea, please call Courtney and let's see if we can take your idea and connect it to a community group to create effective public-private partnerships.
Okay, our next question comes from TW. Will applicants be partially funded, or is it all or nothing? So if we ask for $10,000, for example, could we be awarded $5,000, or would it be $10,000 or a decline? Hope that makes sense.
Yes, that absolutely makes sense. And there is not language in the guidelines that addresses that. So your application would be reviewed by staff, and if we had any questions, we would certainly reach out to qualify more before it is presented to the City Council Finance Committee. We would reach out to you to ask those questions on if your project or program does have other funding, right? What are the other resources available to get it over the finish line? And then if we hear from you that it is all or nothing, we would present it that way on your behalf. You think that covers that question, Courtney? Is that your perspective as well?
I think that's a fair response. Okay, our next online question comes from, pardon me if I mispronounce your name, Opstop Desandra. How would you find out what restoration projects are needed in Citrus Heights? For example, where can we plan to do a creek cleanup event?
I love that question. So we'd want to hear from you early so we can help connect you. Off the bat here, I know of some City of Citrus Heights staff that I would refer you to. We would also work to connect you to Sunrise Recreation and Park District to get more of that information to put together an effective scope. Jana, can you think of any other resources on creek cleanup?
They do Creek Week, and usually in April.
That's right, Creek Week.
There's an organization from Sacramento that organizes the Creek Week, and they monitor all the creeks, and so you team up. They tell you, if you don't, yeah, they don't really come to Citrus Heights creeks as much as they go to other creeks outside of Citrus Heights. But we've had high school students sign up to do it, and they enjoy it. They go down there and muck around in the water. Unfortunately, most of them, they're pulling out hypodermic needles and things like that.
Yeah.
People that live along the creek besides the critters.
So short answer is please reach out to Courtney and we will help you gather the troops to support that creek cleanup. Other questions?
No other questions in the chat box.
Okay, all right. And I'm not seeing any hands in the room here. We heard a couple of questions from our Zoom friends related to specific projects or programs or events. Is there anyone attending in person that maybe wanted to offer what they're thinking about and get some feedback on? Sarah?
Can you come up to the mic so the folks on Zoom can hear you? Thank you.
Yes, so my name is Sarah. I'm the Citrus Heights Community Marching Band band manager. We are currently working on the Kathy Cook Amphitheater at Rush Park. So it's a huge project, a big undertaking, but it's something that we would love to apply and get a grant for to help with the funding. We have some funding already and we're doing fundraising, but that's, a project that we are going to be applying for, so.
So a primary question I would have for you, is that a project that would be completed within a calendar year of approval? So, what is that? May 11th, 2024. Okay. Yeah, if you can complete it within the calendar year and your mix of funding is relayable, you can convey that in the application. And, if the application can convey that this would be final gap funding, then I would encourage you to submit.
I think this is a goofy question, but suppose that we have something in mind that's a big project, we can't get it all together by the 14th of April. So we could do an application, and knowing it's incomplete, and then would that disqualify it, or would we have time to do some kind of interview process?
That's a good question, and I have a conflicting answer on it. I hope you don't mind. The first part of my answer would encourage you to apply just to get it in so that staff has the market intelligence, that it's something that you're looking to do. Because in addition to submitting for the program, what it also does is bookmarks it for us, right? So that we can even keep your project in mind outside of the community projects grant as we're ramping up our community engagement initiatives more and more. Because we want to hear about it, is the point. Yeah. And then the second part of my answer is, you would be submitting with acknowledging that it probably wouldn't make it. But at the same time, going back to our Zoom question, the City of Citrus Heights does have other grant programs available. So since we're ahead of time and this is a very related topic, would anyone mind if I share about the other grant programs right now?
Let's dive in. We received another question online, and I think it relates to this one.
Okay.
So this is Jenny Smith, and she says, can projects be phased, such as the amphitheater project that was mentioned, so the funding would apply to just the first phase?
I wouldn't be able to fully answer that question without knowing the project or event that you're looking to scope. My instinct right now is that it would be tough to make that fit into the application and into the timeline requirement. But I'd really like you, Jenny, to please reach out to Courtney and have a one-on-one conversation about what you're thinking, because we want to learn about it.
My only comment on that would be is that there's always concern that it might be a phased project, which you fund the first phase and the other phases don't occur for some reason. So
Yeah, absolutely.
trapping funds and denying other projects funding.
Yes, exactly. So for our Zoom friends, the comment was about the risk of applying a first phase of funding and then having following phases fall through. That certainly decreases likelihood of consideration. But again, it depends on what it is specifically that we're talking about. I wouldn't be able to fully answer that question until we know more. But Tom, to your point, the way the guidelines are written is exactly so that we can create a really great success bundle of deliverables, right? We want to get to the end of getting these community project grants out there and be able to say, we've done X amount of programs, we've done X amount of events, we've done X amount of community improvement to show the return on investment of these grants. But you guys know what I'm going to say too. We still want to know, we still want to hear about it, right? We still want to hear about it. Jana. Good thing I wore flats today.
So one more question is, and just a comment is, I would encourage people, let's say you have a project you want to do, and you got 6 people that you got enthused about it, but it's going to take 30 to pull it off. Yeah. That those 30 people, those 24 other people are gettable, that we can get them. I mean, we can engage other people if you have the idea. So even if you don't have all your volunteers in the basket with your application, they will follow once because they'll get geared up. A lot of people want to help, but they don't want to initiate.
Exactly right. Those are very wise words. Wise words. Okay, are there other? Okay. Well, while we're at it, if you guys are okay, I'd love to share the other grant programs that are available to give you an idea of other resources that might be a fit for your potential ideas. So for we talked a little bit about we had murals and we had dance come up. The City of Citrus Heights offers a history and arts grant that is specifically for projects that promote history and arts. So recent recipients of this grant include the Wall That Heals, the Vietnam Memorial replica that's coming to Rush Park starting today. Opening ceremonies are today. They received a history and arts grant because this war memorial replica promotes and history and honors our veteran community. Wasn't there another arts project recently?
The Sunrise Mall 50-year history.
That's right. Yeah, the Citrus Heights Historical Society just received a history and arts grant to produce some, what do we call those?
They were panels that will eventually be displayed out here at the Citrus Heights City Hall, and they provide an overview of the 50 years of the mall, what the mall looked like, who was here, the engagement that happened to bring the mall here, and the success of the mall. So the folks in the community will certainly know the history of it, and will get a chance to see the pictorial of it here at City Hall.
Commemorative materials. I was looking for the word commemorative. Another grant that is available is our Neighborhood Improvement Partnership Fund. The acronym is NIP. If you've been around Citrus Heights for any period of time, you've probably heard it talked about. Those guidelines were recently revised to make the funding even more accessible and usable. It's available to our Resident Empowerment Association of Citrus Heights and our network of neighborhood associations to do community improvement projects and activities that increase community engagement and connection as well. So when I talk about, default answer is to talk to Courtney and apply, it's because you can hear a lot of those common threads in those guidelines, both this community projects grant as well as the Neighborhood Improvement Partnership Funds. Both have goals to increase community engagement and connection. So we'd love to help cross-pollinate that programming. One final grant opportunity is our Economic Development Support Grant, and that has a variety of purposes, but it's essentially to help promote our business community in a few different ways. To give you an idea of how it's been used, Royal Stage received an Economic Development Support Grant to do tenant improvements to be able to open their theater in Sunrise Mall. There was one more really good one. Oh, Sunrise Marketplace utilized that program for funding to implement mural projects. So I want to go back to, we heard that mural, did I hear it was adjacent to a commercial corridor? So if it's a mural on a commercial building, we could potentially use that grant. So you can hear why we want to hear about all these projects, because certainly, we'll get you into the community projects grant opportunity, but we also want to be able to have the opportunity to connect you to these other potential programs if it's applicable. Any other questions on Zoom? Okay.
No other questions on Zoom.
Any other hands in the room? It's last call. Going once, going twice. Cool. Well, thank you guys for investing an hour of your time with us to learn more about this opportunity. We hope to see an application from you, and our goal is to get to know you and your community group better so we can support you.